LBR LBO Debrief.
In this very optimistic scenario that you guys are painting for us here, what are the growth sectors that investors should be looking at? Majira, maybe you can give a
No, I think one point we are missing, a few points. One is the peace in Sri Lanka. No country can be boasting about peace aspect as much as we can do. For last so many years, there's nothing happening. So we should protect it. That's the one thing. Second one is that on that we can build a lot of things. If you want, tourism is one aspect. Second one is there was one question asked about health tourism. But if you go on Emirates flight, they give an interview with one head of Emirates, how they are going to do health tourism in Dubai. From the time you arrive, you are collected by a person or put into ambulance, taken to hospital. Immediately insurance is given. If some complications come in, you are airlifted to London or something. All aspects of the problems are looked after. So that's what we should do. Yeah. I think our doctors are extremely good. We have very good hospitals. But that aspect has to be covered properly. Right. Everything has to be looked into for somebody to feel comfortable. Yeah. So that's what other benefit we have is the location. Location, logistics. China is coming not for fun because of the location. There may be many other countries, many other investors who want to come, but there should be land available. They should not be harassed by them. There was a very good project, if Mano will remember, I don't know, there are a lot of great circles pass through Sri Lanka. Planes can take over Sri Lanka. No need of getting down. It's just passing through Sri Lanka. Great circles is the shortest distance from two countries. Only thing we need is to manage the air. If you manage the air in a reliable manner, planes will take this route.
Otherwise planes will come down.
Otherwise planes will meet with each other in somewhere mid-air. So if you can give a reliable management, that's about, if I remember right, at that 2001, it was about 20 million to 30 million US dollar investment. Right. But you have to have Lufthansa, some very good investor coming in here and putting it. Then they will pay you just to use the air. So these are the businesses that we can do.
It's like a toll road, right?
Yeah. And these are God given, nobody can take it from us.
So it's very interesting. So what you're saying is tourism and logistics are the two key sectors, location-based businesses.
And with peace, education, everything you can do.
Yeah.
But more than that, I think it's location-based business. Logistics is the main thing that you can do.
And the point you make about peace is something that we take for granted. And it's something that most of the world is in chaos. In the big, if you take India, there is uncertainty from
Bangladesh. Bangladesh, the problem that happened.
Bangladesh, Thailand, US, all these countries are having. So this is something that we need to maintain. I don't know, Manu is working on a different project there, but we will not touch on that. In terms of just looking inwardly, maybe if you talk about people, Sri Lanka's biggest issue in this new environment of high taxes, cost of operating a business is high. So we have to look at productivity. And I think companies should also look at internally, and people, we should look at how do we increase worker productivity. Because productivity in Sri Lanka is relatively low compared to other countries. That coupled with the millennials coming into the workforce who are not, they are not, there's no loyalty. They like the work-life balance. They're a completely different mindset. How are companies like yours, Mano, adapting to this new reality?
I think from Rajita can add on the manufacturing side, and maybe Dee can talk about the ICT sector. But basically, what I find is that we are having a real difficulty in attracting good middle management. There is a problem. I think part of it is because I think people have gone overseas and the place has become much more global in terms of employment, etc. but attracting middle to senior management has been difficult. Now, positive side of that story is that they are in such demand and they're difficult to find, but I think there is an issue there. So we are finding it, I mean, not only us, I think around most people are finding it difficult. And the other point I have is that true, we have high literacy rates, high social indicators, but whether we are training the bulk of our youth in the areas that they need to be trained is a good question. Now, I noticed with some interest a newspaper article, I think today, out yesterday, where the finance minister has made some comments about trishaw drivers, To some extent, I tend to agree with him, because this is, while I accept that trishaws are the poor man's transport, and not poor man's, I mean most people's convenient transport, the question is whether we are driving our youth into completely untrained, unskilled, basically jobs, and thereby depriving ourselves of that entire generation. Because it's basically, it's a fun job, doesn't need much. There's enough money on a day-to-day basis to manage. It drives other undesirable things as well, but of course it provides transport. But this is a question. So I think my point is whether we are training our youth in the right areas is I think, a good question.
Absolutely. And I think your point about middle management, that companies here are having a huge shortage of good middle managers, is an important one. We talk about tourist sector not having enough staff, but this is not a gap that we've addressed
I want
much.
to add something to that. I think, again, with peace and with the present government being here, a lot of countries are willing to help us on this aspect. Education is one thing any country would like to help another country, because they know it will remain somewhere. So education is where we can get a lot of support. We can start joint ventures, government-to-government type. Libraries are very easy to know. You can just plug into a library and take information, books and things. So you can do a lot of things related to education and training using this background that we have got. We are friendly with everybody now. So you can go to Switzerland or Western countries, other side, America, go and ask for help. They will give it. Because they know that this is the easiest way to help a country.
I think from a manufacturing perspective, how are manufacturing jobs, from a worker productivity perspective?
I mean, definitely, I think we'll need to redefine this more of a value productivity than from the cost productivity point of view. I think we need to bring the whole equation of this entire value chain, how you can optimize the value per employee of a company. So that need to be integrated into the customer-centric approach and the value stream. So in order to optimize, it's basically, if you look at from a manufacturing segment where the factories are located outside of Colombo, say Western province, there is a severe shortage of the operators. So this, at the moment, one of the reasons is that the three-wheeler issue, particularly driving the youth away from the employment. And the garment industry is facing a scarce, acute problem on the operator level. So the Sri Lankan companies will need to look at automation. That is one of the things that we are looking at. Basically, most of the mundane and the kind of the mechanized work, the work that can be mechanized, to be automated. So that is one answer to this issue. The second thing is, I mean, even if you look at, again, from Haley's point of view, I think from a plantation, again, this productivity, I think the one good thing that has happened this time particularly on the wage negotiations for the estate sector, I think for the first time there is a productivity base, some understanding, but how we implement is a question. So at least from that level, where the very difficult trade unions, we have found certain way out. And even our companies, through the collective bargaining, we have gone year on year on productivity-based improvements. And in terms of the management caliber, because I think there are a couple of answers, because we need to look at the the generation, millennium generation and the generation, different generations that have come in. And we need to provide this flexible employment arrangement for the management. And also, we need to tap into the digitalization and the internet-based resources that are existent to make, because there is a huge pool of Sri Lankan experts living around the world. I mean, for that matter, for any nationality. So there can be, I mean, companies, Sri Lankan companies need to adapt itself or change themselves to look at flexible arrangement, more on consultancy arrangement, more consultants handling the marketing, the globalization of their operations. And then for companies like ours, where the regional manufacturing is set up, we need mobility of the middle and the senior management to go into other countries and get the experience. So so from a company's perspective, I think it's the human capital management and need to change, take a different view of the new generations and have very flexible arrangements. And the other thing is the very few Sri Lankan companies have good profit sharing, and the ownership of the companies, I think the Sri Lankan...
like key ESOPs and ESOPs,
yeah,
good. Yeah.
That plus the kind of, I think, real performance-based, profit-based incentives included in their scheme, so that they are...
And that begs the question to list it in the market where you can actually provide good key ESOP schemes. And your fact about hiring consultants is music to my ears.
Yeah, now, for example, just to let everybody know, now, for example, just look at the power of, say, LinkedIn, I mean, these professional websites. I mean, I have started using this, say, 2-3 years ago, and I mean, through this LinkedIn, I've been able to canvas some of the global clients without even having a phone call with them initially. But of course, you need to follow up with the call and a meeting thereafter. Sure. But initial introduction to some of the global companies, key customers, is within your smartphone. So we need to also, I mean, sometimes the problem in Sri Lanka is like, for example, we are also having another problem Sri Lanka has is more and more senior management is of more than 50 years, for example, right? And this is the global trend. And you see in the company boards, there are more and more people now above 60 and some above 70s. I mean, that's nothing wrong in that, because the quality of life improves, but we need to change of our practices.
Kind of adapt to new generations. So I think we have 5 more minutes. I just want to have a lightning round. Yes, just one word answers from the panel. First question is, and we can go from Rajita downwards. In your opinion, what is the best policy initiative that the government has implemented that would help us grow in the next 2 or 3 years? One policy initiative or one policy initiative.
Yeah, I think in terms of...
one word.
Very difficult to find one word. I think I believe the consensual approach, I mean, if I put two words to that, okay. I mean, consensual approach, but within limits, I mean, it should not be too consensual. Right. But
so kind of discourse and coming up with, okay. Mano?
One word difficult. So
no, okay, you can have a sentence.
I think to work at peace, because that's an essential ingredient to all what we are talking about.
Working towards peace.
That's one successful policy.
Yeah, what's the most successful policy that will help?
I think foreign policy is the one that...
foreign policy?
That will have whatever, we can build on that.
So we are building a good relations across the world. Do you have an?
I think ease of doing business.
Ease of doing business?
Is a key one. I mean, I saw, sorry to add a couple of more words to this, I saw some stats about how many initiatives, ease of doing business initiatives Sri Lanka implemented, which is actually compared to the other countries, much more, like 12 or something like that. I think we should do more.
So that the focus on that. What's the worst policy?
My comment is not a policy, but I think inconsistency.
Inconsistency.
I unwrite that one.
And I would say, further than that, contradictions.
Contradictions, inconsistency.
I think one of the key things, again, I'm not well versed with the political arena here, but the communication of consistent message is somewhat lacking. I think consistent
Communication. Okay, so
they're not doing the communication well. I mean, if you look at some of the Western governments, they're pretty good at actually getting the message across. That could be quite significant.
Good. So consistency, communication, and what was the other one? Contradictions. Good. On that note, thanks panel, great panel and a great discussion. Thank you.
Okay, time to wrap up. Yeah, that's interesting. 3 C's. Consistency, contradiction.
Communication.
Communication. That reminds me President Premadas's famous 3. Consensus, compromise.
Consultation.
Consultation, compromise.
Consensus.
Consensus.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody raised a valid question. Of course, I responded to it. Why this, whatever we discuss in our summits, conferences, are not communicated to the right people? Okay, we have been hosting these events for the last 17 years. We probably have over 200. We make every possible effort to bring 3 parties: private sector, academia, and the policymakers and the bureaucracy. We have not always been very successful. Only one event, that is the infrastructure summit, we find a greater participation of public sector. That is because just 3 people. Nana Mavil Madam from Megapolis and RDA Director General, Swarna, and UDA Sumedha Ratnayaka. Okay. Otherwise, Treasury never comes here. Okay. Central banks, on and off. So it's almost impossible, to create, not impossible. We keep trying that. We are not given up. But it's tough because our bureaucracy is not used for discourse. 2 reasons. They're scared of their jobs. They don't openly talk. Unfortunately, Dr. Nandal Vigasin is out of the country, otherwise he would have been here. And he speaks his mind openly. But generally, public sector people, particularly because they worked under a certain regime for 10 years, they simply don't want to come out and talk openly. That is one problem we have. Other is just apathy. They are not used for that, what we discuss, consultation here. So those are the challenges we have. But our primary purpose is not really to influence the policy. We try to do that. In the past, we have influenced the policy through LBO. During former one of the governor's time, we consistently, criticized and gave objective analysis about the monetary policy, and that actually worked. And the government official printing press, that is central bank, slowed down, and that had a tremendous impact on economy. So we have achieved some success. But what is most important thing is our commitment is to the private sector. That it is our duty as a media company to make sure that our private sector is informed of the challenges and opportunities so they can make, proper business decisions. So that's what we really try to aim at. And luckily we have always wonderful people coming from the industry taking part and donating their time. So ladies and gentlemen, we had a long day. And as I said, this particular conference, unfortunately, we don't get many people, unlike other conferences where we get over 300, sometimes 400, because this is end of the year. There's 2 things. One is there is a conference fatigue, and the other is, people are wrapping up their, annual work before they go on vacations. So we had a very productive and interesting day. Started with the discussing, whole morning was spent on discussing the economic issues, and opportunities and challenges. Then we had a very vibrant discussion on a budget. And finally, we had these very well experienced business leaders sharing their views and sharing openly, candidly, and the challenges. I think more than opportunities, I think it is extremely important for us to understand what the challenges lay ahead us. Because some of these challenges you and I simply don't have power to overcome. So we got to adapt ourselves. Because inconsistency, contradictions, non-consultation are constant in our country, unfortunately. Okay, so that is something we got to live with. Okay, there was an interesting question somebody had asked, posed to D, that everybody is talking about low ease of doing business. But here's a man, he brought London Stock Exchange back office, BSL, to Sri Lanka in 6 months, 7 months, something like that. 9 months, okay? So, well, there are ways of, doing things, overcoming challenges. So that's, I can't think of any other, example than what D has achieved, excuse me, yeah, D has achieved. So anyway, I don't want to take so any more of your time, and you're most welcome to join us for drinks. And I hope, some of our speakers will stay behind so you can continue. And ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and thank our wonderful panel.
LBR LBO Debrief.